There we go. Okay. What up, 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 though? What up? Welcome to F1 F Off, yo, the pit stop for F1 news, interviews, and race reviews. I'm your host, Iddris.
And I'm Gabe.
What's up, ladies?
What's up, ladies?
How y'all doing tonight?
Hey.
Y'all ready for a new episode of F1 F Off?
We're bringing it to you smooth and live.
Welcome to Z1079.
You got me just waking up, so my voice is nice and radio friendly.
Here's this band you've never heard of before.
98.5 WMMS, Cleveland's classic rock.
Featuring XNDA. Some of
You know,
know.
everybody has from their hometown, they all remember their radio, one of their radio jingles, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
MSN, yeah. 98.5. What's the other one? 100.7.
Yeah, up in Cleveland, the hip hop station was Z1079, Cleveland's blazing station for hip hop and R&B. That one was just always like,
station.
Yeah. And then you have to Kiss FM.
Oh yeah.
You know, so I was thinking about Kiss FM the other day, and I don't know. I used to live in. Okay, so I was listening to it while driving into school.
Yeah.
For just like in the mornings, right? Like that's what was on, right? And it was like the Elvis Duran morning show. Like, I could not go back and listen to that stuff now. There's no way, man. There's no way.
No.
It was literally fart jokes and whatnot, like 7 a.m. in the morning, and like then it was humorous. To me. Yeah. He's like, oh yes.
It's just like it's a Crazy Ira and the Douche.
Yeah,
from,
crazy. Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Yep.
Crazy
Exactly.
Ira and the Douche.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But okay, so just to get right into it, because we got a lot to talk about today.
We do.
My boy, the notorious BLG over here, sitting across from me, 2,000 miles away, virtually in the PW. You did something really fun this weekend. You want to tell the listeners what you did? And
well, if you followed us on social media,
which you should,
if you don't, here's your opportunity. I was at the Portland Indy Grand Prix, and I had a paddock pass, so I was getting all sorts of awesome footage and pictures. I honestly, because it was my first experience in a paddock, I really didn't know what I was doing. It's kind of like when you're I don't know. It's like when you're a kid and like your parents take you to some big exciting event and you're just like standing there like,
yeah,
this the whole time.
Oh, like
and
Troy.
Like, go talk to a driver, and you're
Yeah.
like, huh?
Yeah.
What driver?
Kind of like when Troy met LeVar Burton in Community.
Yes. It was definitely a completely different experience than I had ever gone through before. And what was amazing was that when you have a paddock pass and you're in the midst of the action in this way,
Yeah.
Because of how IndyCar makes everything so accessible, you feel more attached and more part of a sport than you would anything else. It's like if you were a basketball fan and you had a locker pass and you could just like walk around and like hang out with the players as they're like, doing their walks, or like if you're out on the court while they're practicing or warming up, it kind of feels like that. It's you're literally inches away from the cars. Like, and nobody's stopping you. There's no ropes around. I mean, well, there is for the mechanic area. Yeah. But like where the tires are when they're rolling the cars out, like they're just, they're just there. They're doing their job. I was I had a couple of brushes. Well, I'll say brushes, but like I saw several notable figures in IndyCar just like walk past me or like cross my path. One was Chip Ganassi, and I didn't realize it. I'm just like walking, and I just see this big red-headed bald guy, like red-faced, like big head like, guy, and I like passed me by, and I'm like, wait, that was Chip Ganassi. And he's like goes walking into his thing, and I was like, oh, he's nasty. I shook Roman Grosjean's hand.
Nice.
he was just walking by, and I said, "Hey, good luck." And I went to shake his hand. I shook his hand, and he has soft hands. He has soft, smooth, supple hands. And I mean, I guess he had hand burns, so he probably moisturizes a lot. But I was just like, okay, sweet. So no fist bump. It was like a whole shake. I was waiting in line for the bathroom, and Graham Rahal just like scooted up on his electric scooter, and he was just like, "Oh man, there's a line for the shitter," and I'm like, "Yep." And he's like, "Oh," and he just turned around and went, and I just like, "Good job, Graham," because he had gotten the pole that weekend. So that was fun. And yeah, like I saw Tony Kanaan, I saw Marcus Ericsson, Michael Andretti, like they were all there, just kind of like walking around, hanging out. It was pretty amazing to see. And the race was pretty excellent. It was a little processional in the middle. But it had a really intense beginning and an intense end. So it was definitely an incredible experience, and we're definitely going to get you to have to come out for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, you only pay. I realized they have a thing called a pit pass where you can walk around the pits. I have determined that is not necessarily worth it, because there's not really too much else you can do outside of that. Like, because you can't interact with the drivers, you can't like get into the car. You just watch from the pit lane, which I guess is cool, but I don't know if it's worth $100, because there's a fence that's right there you could walk up to that's still paddock area, and you could just watch from there. So for me, what I paid, I think was worth it, unless they change it in the future. But ultimately, my last thought is way more accessible than F1 ever was.
Oh yeah,
like or ever is. It's just like, it's incredible to see that like the drivers are just there, the cars are just hanging out. It's wild.
I mean, you also don't have like the procession of the VIPs driving around the track on a flatbed, waving to you as if you're a peasant, like they did to us when we were at COTA. Yeah, so there's definitely that. IndyCar feels more like the race series for the everyday man, right? For us folk who eat cake, as Marie Antoinette would say. But that I'm glad to hear you had a really, really fun experience doing that, and that is so killer. And so here's my question about the paddock pass. I mean, if we're talking like price differential here, what was the price difference between like GA, pit pass, paddock pass? Yeah,
so GA general admission for the 3 days was I think it was like 60 some 70 something dollars, I think. Maybe no, it could be more. I'm pretty sure the paddock pass was like, I think I paid 100 and maybe 150 or so
for the weekend,
for the 3 days in the paddock
that's
pass.
So nice. Wow.
Well worth it. I'm just gonna say it's well worth the money. Especially in a hometown race, because I'm not paying to fly, I'm not paying to stay. So it makes sense to invest that kind of money. And like I said, I think the paddock pass is worth it. The only thing is you don't get a lanyard and a little thing. They just give you wristbands. That's a little disappointing.
They don't do that anymore. There's been a huge push away from that, from having like the lanyards with like whether it's like Pirelli or whoever one of the sponsors are, participants are, and like the little like plastic sleeve that you can put your ticket in. They don't do that anymore.
It's kind of disappointing. I was really upset. I was like, I want one. Like, I just have these little dinky like wristbands. So it's
fine. It'll do a pinch.
But there's a lot more things I can talk about.
Sure.
But we have to talk about what we're here to talk about. Monza.
Monza. So welcome to the Italian Grand Prix. We're titling this, the tentative title, it's a swing and a miss. Good game, Max. For reasons that will be laid out and spelled out very clearly for you all as we're listening to this. But so the Italian Grand Prix, the official name of the event is Formula. I don't know. That's not the proper way to say it in Italian, I don't think. But Formula One Pirelli Gran Premio d'Italia 2023. And this this event takes place at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Located in Monza, Italy. The first race was held in 1921. It is an afternoon race where the F1 driver with the most wins is both Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton. Louis Hammy. Louis Hammy. Both
it's
drivers.
Like his buddy from Jersey. It's like, it's my buddy Louis Hammy.
Yeah, it's like me. Yeah, I'm Sir Lewis Hamilton, and I'm Louis Hammy, together with Louis and Lewis.
Louis and Lewis.
That'd be a great podcast.
Here at 5 on PBS.
Fun fact about the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. It is the 5th oldest track on the calendar, beaten only by the French, U.S., Russian, and Spanish GPs. So I was a little confused about that.
Yeah,
I didn't get a chance to do a deep dive into it. But that's straight from Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is known to never lie, right? So do your own research, folks.
I know one of the oldest tracks is in I think it's in Greece. It's literally like it's a dirt circle, like because they were racing horses, like Ben Judah, Ben Hur. Yeah. So like I would say that's probably the oldest of the tracks. Like you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no. Well, Monza is definitely a historic track. It used to be way longer, and it has these historical banked turns. We had this huge banking, and the drivers would drive along this huge like banked corners, like almost like a it's like an oval track with like a bank, like it, it was really dangerous, and they kind of shut down, but it's still there, and that's one thing that if I had an F1 bucket list, we need to come up with an F1 bucket list. One of my F1 bucket lists would be to walk along the old Monza banking at that track, because it's just to witness it would be crazy just to see, because it's sort of overgrown now and kind of run down, but it looks incredible. It would be just really, really kick ass to see. But no, that and also what's the track that's nicknamed the Green Forest of Death? That is the Green Death.
Yeah, Green Death.
That's the Nürburgring.
Yes, Nürburgring. That would also be a great track to walk to.
Walk it. You want to walk the Nürburgring?
Maybe you can get like Lyft or Bird scooters.
Yeah, like maybe like a gas powered scooter, because I don't even think an electric scooter is gonna get us around that whole track, man. That thing is so long. Like it's like 10 minutes for some of the fastest cars in the world. So it's like, let's just drive around the county. All right. But yeah, no, I agree. That would be cool. Yes. Well, speaking of nicknames too, they called Monza the Temple of Speed. And if I would agree for two reasons. One, it is a temple for the Tifosi. They basically it's like church for them.
Oh my God.
And two, it is a fast track. Average speed was 160 miles an hour. Jeez. Average speed. Like that's nuts. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was in a bit of high hopes for this one. There's all that anticipation of like what Max is going to do and whether he's going to win it. There's also the Monza curse, which everyone was going over, and there's been like two superstitions that Max has completely
demolished.
So if anything, it just goes to show you that curses are not a thing. But hey, the rule of three is still in place, because unfortunately, just a little side note, Jimmy Buffett passed away, and now the lead singer of Smash Mouth has like days left. Apparently he has massive liver failure. So
jeez.
Yeah, like the thing of threes is apparently a thing still. So I don't know, but but hey, like, superstitions, whatever, curses, whatever. But yeah, Max apparently, he's outside of that. But
yeah,
first things first, let's talk about quali.
Let's talk about quali. Actually, real quick, I want to say, since we were talking about Smash Mouth, Steve Harwell, he did pass away just a little bit ago. Yeah,
just a little bit ago.
So R.I.P. to him, and much love and peace to his family. Yeah,
he's an all-star.
Man, that forever will be like a significant piece of our childhoods. Like,
it's like a historical, it's like a cultural relic at this point.
Yeah,
but I do have mixed emotions, because I was definitely made fun of in grade school because I did not like Smash Mouth, and everybody loved Smash Mouth, and they made fun of me for it. Like mocking me by like shouting the lyrics to All Star in my face.
That's really weird. That almost sounds like cartoon villain movie kind of stuff. That's
wild.
Well,
that was my childhood, cartoon villains. Yes, that's why I'm so animated.
Yeah. So let's get into that quali.
Yes.
So bro, like I really enjoyed this quali session. This was really fun to watch. Yeah,
it was good.
I think overall, I just gotta say that Williams is looking mad scary. Like,
oh yeah,
I think I honestly, I'm gonna say it right now. I'm going on record. I think the Williams just needs a few tweaks, and I think that thing can be competing for P4s, P5s. Like,
I agree. I agree.
think the way Albon is like driving that car, he really seems to be at one with it, right? Forget Sargent. I mean, Sargent's like an anomaly because he's not really representative of what the car can do because he's a rookie. He's still getting his bearings. Give the guy another year, and I think you'll see him getting better performances. But man, Albon is just like making that thing work so well for him, and it just makes me think like, what is so different about the Red Bull when he was driving it versus how the Williams is structured, right? Like, because the Williams, from my understanding, from a technical standpoint of how it's built, is designed to be like, it's very simple because they didn't have much money to throw at CFD. They didn't have much money to throw at the wind tunnel, right? So, and they're also going through like the restructure because of they were sold to Doralton Ventures, all this kind of stuff, right? So there's a lot going on, right? So it makes sense that the design would be very simple, but it seems that simplicity works really well, right? One of the things about the Williams car is that it has one of the most basic, I think it has the most basic aero floor, right, for the ground effect, right? So this just means that they need some more time, some more research to kind of figure out and fine tune some things, because that thing is mad scary in the straights. Just figure things out in the corners a little bit and tighten things up, and I think it could really be getting a good haul of points there, I would say.
Yeah.
They're on the verge, it feels like.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like their strength is straight line speed, and this is a speed course.
Yes.
So they're going to be doing well. I mean, any track that we've seen that's had a long straightaway of any kind, the Williams has actually been doing pretty well because of that speed differential.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, trying to figure out the remainder of the car, especially when it comes to handling, like, it's tricky.
Yeah.
It's tricky to do. Speed is easier to get because all you need is, like you said, that simplification.
Yeah.
You just need to know your engine has the power,
Yep.
and you just need to make things streamlined. You have to focus in that way. But like handling, it's all about like manipulating the air around it to be effective, and that's way more complicated and trickier to do.
Yeah.
So hopefully Williams, can take advantage of this,
of their position, right?
Of their position,
and use the more CFD hours,
use that momentum to really carry through because they're really doing well. I was surprised. I was surprised that even Sargent was doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the other big takeaway from Q1 was that both Alpines out right off jump. Like, yikes.
The French Ferrari, did not. They didn't. They just, they just couldn't.
And
they pulled a Ferrari at Ferrari's track.
And is it fitting that Binotto is going to come head the team up from all the rumors?
Is that the rumors?
Oh,
right?
you haven't heard? Yeah. That is the big rumor that's flying around that
that's weird.
Binotto will be coming in. Yeah, I don't like it.
It feels weird.
It does.
Like if he was like in doing AlphaTauri, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I guess maybe, but like the French Ferrari and not any sort of Italian-based team, it just doesn't. It seems strange.
Yeah.
I mean, Alpine's got to do something. I think that the thing that's keeping them back is they keep changing things too quickly, or stuff keeps changing too fast.
Yeah.
And they just need to clock in a solid 4 to 5 year run of just this consistency, and then see where they're at.
Yeah.
The fact is that they just keep changing things, and it's just like, come on, guys, stop.
Yeah.
But really congrats to those Williams popping into Q2. That was really impressive. Sorry about those Alpines. Also, Lance Stroll out in Q1.
Dude, by the way, so I don't know. So to those of you who follow our socials, like specifically our IG, if you're not sub to us, please do, because we post some ace content. Gabe put a really funny post up, just kind of showing the the timing sheets of all the drivers. I think they're in the free practices, and you caught one that was really good that had like next to Alonso's, it's like Alonso, F, and then AST was in parentheses for the team,
the Aston,
right? Yeah, for the Aston. So his name was Fast, and then Stroll's was Stroll, L, AST, and he was last in the series.
Last, yeah. No, I saw that was I saw that I saw that. I think it was like F1 no context page or something.
Yeah,
and I was like, that is perfect.
Hilarious.
Because it's true, and it's just like, and I'm sitting there, I was watching like, whose seats are available, And Lance's seat is apparently sewn up for next year. Like, he's not going anywhere. I mean, I hope somebody comes to their senses, because they talked about, I'll talk about my thoughts, but like the Constructors Championship, once again, Alonso is just continuing to carry that team single-handedly, because even if he has a low points finish, he still has a points finish. Whatever. It's been talked to death. I just can't. Stroll needs to move on.
Well, and that was the thing too. Like, because real talk, this car is good. There's no reason both Astons should not be in the top 10, and at least in Q3. Come on, like it's absurd. It does like the performance that's in that car. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it does not. No, it does not. Yeah. Well, our Q2 experience was equally as fascinating. And as you have a note here, and I actually would like to mention this as well, the Alfa Romeo looked spectacular.
Oh, Mamma Mia.
I mean, like,
so good.
the colors they even chose, like, they're just these metallic green and like this man. I was watching them on the track, and I'm like, what car is that? Like, it kept confusing me, but I'm like, oh wait, that's the Alpha. They looked so good. And the Ferrari, I do like the little yellow splurt. I feel like they could do more.
Yes.
I mean, I know, like, Ferrari always races in red. I get it. But I feel like at Monza, they should do something special. They should always do something special, but more special than what they're doing. Like, there's, they have historical precedent of racing in different colors that are not just red to commemorate things. Like John Surtees, when he raced for him, he did a couple of races where the car was like a baby blue and yellow, or it was baby blue and red. Yeah. And that car looked awesome. And I was like, why don't you guys do something like that, like, for a one-off, Ferrari, like, they have a huge, like, a bunch of different colors in their palette. So, the yellow was nice. I know a lot of people didn't like the race suits because it was kind of giving off, like, McDonald's vibes. But, I'm loving it. Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought, I'm wanting to have what's Have It Your Way. That's
Burger King.
Oh, it's Burger King. Burger King,
right.
Yeah. So I'm loving it.
And Arby's is we got the meats.
We got the meats.
It's so aggressive. Like, I don't want to go to Arby's and get the meats there like that.
10-foot tall, stacked high roast beef, succulent goodness. Add some bacon. Why not? We got the meats. Well, speaking of which, though, too, really quick side note, at IndyCar, remember when we were at Mid-Ohio, all there was to eat was just hot meats?
Yeah, hot meats.
On, like, skewers.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yep.
Portland had a lot more stuff going on. I mean, like, you had your hot meats, but there's also, like, a lots of, like, Mexican stuff. There was pizza. There was some, there wasn't, like, a salad bar or anything, but, like, there's also, like, coffee stands. We got I got a funnel cake at the Funnel of Love, so I had my funnel cake redemption, because at Mid-Ohio's they, like, burnt it to a crisp. And this one was all nice and soft, and it had strawberries and whipped cream on it. But here's the travesty. We went back because we're like, let's try something different, and we got I got elephant ears. And I just noticed the guy reached into a bin, he pulls out a tortilla and throws it into the fryer, and then fries up a tortilla, and then sprinkles it with cinnamon sugar and butter. And that was my elephant ear. And I'm like, that's not an elephant ear. It was really bad. It was, your face is exactly what my face is doing the whole time.
That's a fried tortilla.
Yes, it is a fried. They're claiming it's an elephant ear. I was really upset. We were just like, what the hell is this? Like, what's going on? And so, we were like, this is disappointing. So we just didn't even bother with it. But anyway, it was not great. I was upset. And they had fried everything. They had fried butter. And I'm like, oh, no. Just like they advertised it's a chunk of butter. And like, I'm like, who
that's
would
gross.
eat that?
That's so gross.
I would not eat that.
I think Yuki Tsunoda would eat it.
He probably would.
Yeah.
No, he probably would.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, so the end of quali, right?
Yeah. So Ferrari had that, had that provisional pole, and like, it was amazing to watch the blue sectors getting traded back
Love
and forth.
Love it.
You even had a moment where I think even like Yuki had a purple sector at one point, and then that guy snatched away. Like it was pretty incredible to watch the trading back and forth. Our boy Carlos on his birthday just swung in and took that pole. And that was really impressive.
Yeah.
And it was amazing for those Tifosi fans to witness.
Yeah.
I was really happy for them.
Yeah, I love when a hometown team gets to see their hometown hero do it for them. Like, that's, like, I love seeing, like, Max winning at Zandvoort, great. I want to see Ferrari winning at Monza. I want to see Lewis or, McLaren or Lando in particular win at Silverstone. You know what I mean? It just feels right, because then everyone just gets so much more hype, and it's a very enjoyable experience, right? Like, I would love to see Checo win at the Mexican GP. Man, could you imagine? That'd be so fun to see.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love it.
Yeah. So
he's won it before, hasn't he? Hasn't he won the Mexican Grand Prix before?
No.
No?
No. I think last year or 2 years ago, Max won. Did Max win it, or did Lewis? Lewis might have won that a couple years ago. No, but Checo has not won the Mexican GP.
Okay.
I don't think. But yeah, so yeah, Sainz of Ferrari gets our pole position, and that sets up our grid for the race where he's P1. And to tie it back to the fried butter from previous conversation there, I think Yuki Tsunoda eating that fried butter is what made him pull over the side of the road, because he had a busted car right off jump.
He just
on the
whipped it
formation
into the intake, and the engine went.
Oh no, he ate it the night before, and he's like, guys, I don't feel so good. Gotta pull over. Stop the car. Stop the car.
Stop the car. Stop the car. Fried butter question. That was. It was
weird,
funny
right?
because it was weird, and we don't. What's funny is that we have not seen a lot of mechanical failures this year.
Right. Right.
And what's interesting is we didn't see a lot last year. We didn't see that many. We saw a few, but it used to be something that was a lot more common.
Yes.
In the sport. I mean, I remember like the early years of me watching, like almost every race somebody had a mechanical failure.
Yeah.
The engine caught fire, blew. Some piece of the suspension broke, something went wrong in the car. It was way more common than it is now, which I think is a testament to how solid these cars are.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the problem was that his car was stuck in gear, so they couldn't just roll it into the little slip area where he had parked it. So they had to get the truck out and do it. Now here's a crazy thing. Did you notice? So like all the cars, they came around, right? And then they had the aborted formation lap. So they went around again. They come back to the end. Yuki's still not done, and they're all sitting there on the grid. And all the mechanics are like gathering. They're all like rolling their stuff up and like getting ready to. Did you see that there were 2 Alfa Romeo drivers that jumped the fence?
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Alfa Romeo engineers. Yeah. I was like, because I was watching the telecast, and there were 2 dudes like hopped over the fence and had equipment. And I was like, what are those guys doing? At first, I thought that maybe they were like environmentalist protesters that were like, using that moment to like jump on the track. But then I saw later that once that they released the gates, they were dudes that were just sitting there. They were in Alfa Romeo like engineering outfits, and they had just hopped over the fence, and they weren't supposed to they were supposed to wait for the gate to open because it was a hot track.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, maybe Alfa Romeo is going to get a fine for that.
I would wager.
Good. Yeah. I don't know. It's like almost like nobody else noticed, but like I definitely noticed. You could watch it on the telecast.
Yeah.
Like 2 Alfa Romeo engineers just hopped over the fence. Like, like there were a couple of teenagers waiting for a Black Friday sale or something. But yeah. And then they kind of just did a whole reset the whole start, and it was a clean start. I will say that. I was expecting some chaos into turn 1, but there really wasn't anything. Everybody got through. So
everyone kept their noses clean, and honestly, there wasn't much action up until about lap 9. And I think that was just because what you had was Sainz like leading Max, leading Leclerc, and Ferrari they were doing a really good job of keeping keeping Max kind of pincered.
Oh, Carlos Sainz. Oh man,
Yeah.
You know how they call Checo the Minister of Defense?
Yeah.
I think they should probably change that for Italy to Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
Or no, for Spain for Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
It could be Italy too, because that was incredible to watch.
Yeah, did such a good job. I think the only complaint I had, like while watching the race, and I'll bring it up again later because I think it's really important. Leclerc could have done a better job as far as like keeping up with Max, and I don't know if that was an issue with him overheating. It probably could have been, right, given how hot the track was, how hot it was that day, that he wasn't able to keep as tight with Max. Or maybe I'm just making that up in my mind after the fact after having watched it. But that, I think at the time I was just kind of like, man, if Leclerc stayed a bit closer, he could make Max work harder to defend and, bork his tires, and then, maybe we see like a Ferrari win or something. But yeah, I bring up lap 9 in particular because I think that was the first time we've seen Max in a while be uncomfortable. And on the radio, he said they have a lot of top speed for F's sake. And inside I was just like, yes, give in to the anger, Max.
Give in to your feelings. I can feel it swelling in you.
It is not a story the Jedi would tell you.
Feel your anger. I'm afraid your friends the station will be quite operational when your friends arrive.
How is Ian McDiarmid in the original trilogy like younger than he is? Well, I mean, because of how they filmed it, right? Like the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. But I felt like he was like so much more intimidating, like in the original trilogy. Like he did such a good job.
Way more intimidating. Oh my god, yeah.
Because you rarely see him, right? Like he just shows up. He's like, oh, you will die, that kind of thing,
Yeah, he just sort of like he's just kind of like oddly seductive in this creepy way.
Yeah.
And it also, but that's the thing. He was shown. It's like he needed to out creep Darth Vader.
Yes.
And
it worked really well.
They did that. It worked really well.
Yeah.
I'm honestly going to go on record and say that Grand Moff Tarkin in A New Hope definitely out intimidates Darth Vader.
Yeah, Vader's just kind of
supposed to.
Yeah, Vader was just the muscle.
Vader was the muscle. That he was the muscle.
Was
the
bouncer.
Second movie, Emperor, he kind of gets a little bit more power and influence, but then once Empire comes in, he's just like, he's just a guy. So, but yeah, no, I think that the Ferraris, I mean, obviously they have a lot of straight line speed, and I think that's what really benefited them being able
on
to
this track.
Next. Especially you see that that first big high speed curve. You see the driver in on the inside. There's that great shot where Max is trying to go around Carlos, and Carlos is just inching away. And it was just like a drag race down the track. It was amazing.
It was so fun to see.
Super phenomenal. I was a little confused why Leclerc was not able to shore up the distance to Max while Carlos was holding him back, because he had DRS and he was able to use it, but he just could not. He could not close that gap to Max, because I was hoping that he was going to get into a battle with Max and try and get past him, but Max just was hooking onto Carlos, and I think Carlos is kind of being pushed along by Max a little bit.
That too.
So.
Yeah, Carlos is definitely, he doesn't really I think he is someone, I guess he's kind of like water, right? He will take the form of whatever container it is, right? So if he's being accelerated, he's going to take that form and accelerate a bit more, whereas if he's being dragged along, he won't be able to necessarily eke out the, not to say he's a bad driver or anything, no, I think he's great, but it's kind of like what we talked about, right? Like the Prost approach versus the Senna approach, right? Both very good drivers, just different styles, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, something really funny happened on lap 14 where Russell and Perez, they just both go off the track, and Perez claims on the radio, "Oh, he pushed me," and it's like, no.
What did Russell said something? Didn't Russell say something to his engineers? He was getting real sassy in this race. I think he said something along the lines of like, "Oh, yeah," they were telling him, they're just like, "Oh, okay, like Russell, you need to look, like, watch your be more conservative around blah blah, blah turrets." He's just like, "Do you not see that I have a car up my ass?" Like, and I was like,
yeah.
Dude, blimey. Okay, wow. Princess George is getting real sassy here. I love it. And we've heard that a few times from him. I think he's
absolutely
definitely getting more comfortable with his place in Mercedes. So
he should be. Yeah, I mean, he's doing really well at Mercedes. He is. You know, they gave him a crap car. He's eking out really good performances. So I think he has. Do
you ever think what Mercedes would be doing if they kept Bottas and didn't put George in?
How so? What do you mean? As far as like team dynamics?
Well, do you think Bottas would have been doing better than George, or do you think George is? Do you think they'd be about the same? Like, where do you think?
Ooh, that's a good question. That is a really good question. I think. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I was gonna say I think Bottas would be doing better, just because he would have more familiarity with like the chassis and the build of the car. But it's a completely new chassis, right? Like this is not. Yeah. This is a different design spec, you know. You see how Lewis is struggling with this sometimes too. So, I would wager Bottas would face the same struggles. Now, who would have a better point haul? I don't know. I don't know.
It's a question to think about.
Yeah.
You know, because we don't know necessarily what George would have been like in the old car, so it's hard to kind of put those two together. Yeah,
but I mean, we do have one data point when George stepped in for Lewis.
It's true.
Was it 2020? Or 2020? 2020.
Yeah, I think it was 2020,
Yeah, and he almost won that race. So
he did if it wasn't for like that mechanical failure. That was such a bummer. But also you look at like Bottas has won a bunch of races with Mercedes. So, you know, it's an interesting question to consider. But I feel like George is still good. I mean, he's a good driver and he's a good teammate. I just think maybe he would challenge Lewis a little bit more than Bottas did. So that you know, that could either make him a better or worse teammate in your estimation. It's tough to say. But.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to bring up here that I think is kind of crucial towards like the strategy of this of the race that we watched, Ferrari. I think at this point in the season, I'm realizing Ferrari is just super inconsistent when it comes to their pit stops, and I guess I never took note before, right?
Yeah.
I think it was lap 20 or so. Sainz had a 3.6 second pit stop. Russell comes in during that same pit window at 2.6 seconds, right? So that's a second you just lost, right, to Mercedes. And then I think literally the next lap, Leclerc gets a 2.3 second pit stop. So that's a greater than 1 second pit stop difference between Sainz and Leclerc, right? That is all over the place. Like that, I'm surprised. I should not be surprised, but Ferrari just needs to tighten that up. I would wager that back in the day, that their pit stop strategy was a lot better than what we are seeing now. But also the other side of me is just like, no, probably not. Ferrari probably won its titles because their car was just that good, that fast, right? That it overcame all of their inconsistencies and all their bad habits, right? So, you know, I think it would behoove the Ferrari team to tighten things up on the pit stops. Because we've seen this so many times. It can make or break your race. You know, if you get the undercut or the overcut right. So
it's true.
Yeah.
Do you think that there should be a minimum time delta for pits? Like pits have to be 5 seconds at the minimum.
And then release.
I mean, you know, everybody loves the fact that they can do these pit stops in like 2 seconds or like less, and like that's awesome. But like, there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of intensity involved with that, and but I guess that also goes into a larger question about what is more important for the sport, racing on track or strategy. I think that's the problem that Ferrari has. They have a little too much strategy and a little less like actual on track. You know,
you think they have strategy?
I mean, I think they attempt to have strategy. Whether it's successful or not is a different issue. But it's always a weird thing, because you can always suggest something, but then there's always some other thing that comes in, like, well, I don't know. Like you'd be like, open up the regulations, but then you're like, but wait, but people have money compared to like you don't have money, and then there's safety concerns. But I don't know. I mean, I was thinking like the easy way that they could do that, rather than imagine if they did a thing where, well, I guess it wouldn't matter though, would it? Yeah, because the whole point of doing that pit stop is to make sure they get the wheels on, they don't make any mistakes,
right?
Or be able to account for if there's a problem with the wheel gun or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's other ways that they can improve the sport outside of the pit.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's more of a philosophical question too, which I think we should. That'd be a fun episode for us to do. So you guys be on the lookout for that. Just like, what should F1 do, right? What should the F1 of tomorrow look like? I think that'd be a fun one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we move on from there. I think the next big thing, there was a thing where between Russell and Perez, Russell gets a penalty. I think that was for the Ocon incident. But then later on, we see a big touch between your boy Louis Hammy and Oscar Pastrami. Like that was, a ham and pastrami sandwich. That would be a great meme photo.
Yeah.
That was big.
I was gonna say so remember last episode we were talking about fandom things, right?
Yep.
So the one I thought of for Piastri was Pia Pets, almost like Chia Pets, because PIA is like his abbreviated name, right? So Pia Pets. Also, I found out Hamilton fans are called hammerheads, or
I don't like it. I don't like hammerheads.
Yeah, it's like Hamiltons, or like Hamilton heads or something. It's very clunky. Yeah, I don't know. They could be like Louis or something. But I did come up with a couple of other ones that I was actually pretty proud of. I think my favorite one was Alonso's. It was Alon Soulmates. I thought was pretty clever.
I like that one.
Stroll-Trolls. The Gas League. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
And then this one's a little silly, but for Yuki Tsunoda, it could be the Yukimon or Yukio. Like it just sounds so perfect, right?
It's time to duel.
Yukimon, I wanna be the very best. And then I think for Checo, I thought like the Czech community, but it's a little hard to get out, the Czech community. But yeah, no, Stroll-Trolls is going to be a thing, and maybe that's a thing we should do for an Aston Martin segment. Is the Stroll-Troll minute.
Stroll-Troll,
where I just troll Stroll for the whole minute.
Boy, these waffles.
It's just like, wow, like I guess Daddy couldn't buy you the premium Q1 pass in order to get out of Q or Q3 pass to get out of Q1. So,
oh man.
It would mostly just be about how he's rich and he still can't win. Yeah.
So Louis Hammy gets a 5-second penalty from that. Also fitting that it happened on lap 44 for driver number 44. But that was, you look at the onboard footage and you're just like, ooh, Lewis, it looks like he kind of turned into him there. So that sucks for Oscar because he had front wing damage, had to go back into the pits to get that changed and fixed out. Yeah. But at this point, Louis Hammy, he just has to maintain a 5-second gap to maintain his position in points.
Yeah, he apologized to Piastri afterward too. He knew that he was soon, or he basically said he locked up and there was just there's nowhere he could go, and they just ran into him.
Yeah,
and so I'm like, well, that's good. Yeah, he apologized, he accepted it. That's great.
That's sportsmanlike
instead of like calling somebody a princess and complaining to their face and saying they're a dickhead. There's always this struggle that we get when we run into incidents on track, especially in a place like Monza where people do a lot of cutting corners, whether or not they're gaining a position or they're not, and like how much they have to give up that position. Sure. I think we did see a lot of the drivers do a good job of giving back the position immediately after they had gained it. Yeah. Which is a very sportsmanlike thing to do. But what makes it difficult that people don't often think about is the fact that if you do go off track and you have to give up that position, how do you give up that position without giving up your
like 2 positions, right?
Without losing your advantage, or your gap that you had. It's a tricky thing. So
I almost kind of feel like it might make more sense to just add like if you want to maintain like the flow of racing, that kind of thing, if you gain an advantage by going off the track, you get a 3-second penalty. Right? And that will be added to your time at the end of the race, right? So, I don't know. What do you think about that? If you added a time penalty, because you can really screw with it, just like you're talking about. You're messing up with the racing momentum, right?
Yeah. I think it can get complicated.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to give them 5 seconds because they certainly didn't gain a 5-second advantage.
Right.
And then if you get into the realm of like 1 second or 1/10 of a second, that can be complicated to keep track of. I think it's easier with track limits because that's a very easily identifiable thing that happened. I think that if you don't give back that position, I think what they should do is they should have like a kind of like what they do in IndyCar, where they just have a drive-through penalty. They just drive through the pit lane. They don't stop, or unless they want to, but they just drive through the pit lane, and then because you're still kind of keeping up speed. I don't think it's a 5-second loss. I mean, maybe that's the equivalent. Maybe driving through the pit lane would be equivalent of a 5-second penalty. I feel like that's how a 5-second penalty should be served. It's just a drive through in the pit lane. Because it would be a lot cleaner and there was no risk of people touching the car, or whatever. But yeah, it's tough to say. It's so hard to quantify, and I think like you have to be careful not to penalize too much. And I think that's the problem, is that FIA doesn't have a middle ground. They either over penalize or they under penalize, and it's like,
that's why I was saying like that 3 second is kind of like that in between, where it's enough of a dent, but it's also enough of, you can come back from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I don't
a
know.
2 or 3 second gap is a possible, especially middle of the race or early in the race. So yeah.
Well, we get to lap 51, and the race is pretty much a wrap. And dread it, run from it. Destiny arrives all the same. Max Verstappen wins.
Hey, you know what?
Checo gets
Congrats
second.
to him.
Yeah.
Congrats to him for his 10 race in a row.
Amazing, honestly, it's huge.
That's a historical thing, and we're not, it's not like next year, like who's gonna attempt it. It's like the opportunity for that to happen is so rare.
It's so rare and so slim.
And so like it could be decades before we see somebody challenging that again. Or maybe Max just does it next year. I mean, Red Bull, I know at this point are probably going to end up looking for the perfect season probably next year.
Absolutely. Oh, I would do the same thing too if I were them. Like, are you kidding me? Like, like when it comes to Formula One and like the competitiveness that exists in sport and getting the accolades, like when the iron is hot, strike it. You can't whiff on things, right? And on one hand, that's why I understand a lot of the ruthlessness that a lot of these teams have, right? I can understand why Red Bull will cut Nick de Vries like that, right? I can understand why Marco is very like curt and just cold when it comes to just his performance criticism, right? When he's talking about Max and Checo. I get it, right? So that doesn't mean it's excused, right? Like some of the actions they take because they don't think of the ramifications and impacts, like the human cost of to some of the decisions. But that isn't to take away from like the amazing feat that Red Bull has achieved here. This is so cool to see. And to those that are saying that this is boring, this is what F1 is. F1 is like constructor dominance. It is driver dominance. This is what we're seeing right now. And like you're watching history being made right now. So just enjoy it, Same thing to those people who don't like LeBron James. They're like, oh, he makes the sport boring. Like, just enjoy it while it's here because he won't be here forever, right? He won't be playing basketball forever. Max won't be driving forever. Who knows? Max could retire at the end of this year and just be like, I'm done, right?
Yeah,
so,
could be. Yeah. I don't think he will.
Sure.
I think he'll at least, I think he said, like, if they're uncompetitive by 26, then he's done. So,
I mean, his career is, like, he has had a career that people would kill for, and he's just doing a great job. So, congrats to him and congrats to Red Bull. And
right.
Every other race this season, I think Max could foreseeably, like, reasonably win everything.
Yeah,
So,
he could.
Yeah.
It would be an insane season to remember. I will say though, I'm very, very proud of the Ferraris for putting up the fight that they did.
Yes.
Including with themselves. I was tentatively thinking we should call this the running of the bulls, because it kind of feels like that's what Ferrari did. Like it's like they're, running away from these charging Red Bulls as best as they could before they were, overtaken by them. Because I mean, Carlos kept Max behind so effectively.
Yeah.
It felt like a real race for several laps there. And then he did the same for Perez against Perez.
Yep.
He held Perez back as much as he could. And so he earned that third podium.
Absolutely.
Third place podium for sure.
Yeah.
There was just goes to show like I don't really think there was anything else that Carlos could have done.
Yeah.
I think that the Red Bulls are just too fast and they just, they couldn't catch him on those straightaways that easily. Like even the DRS was like, just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
But they were still managed to, they had to, even Max admitted he had to catch Carlos out in a mistake in order to get the pass.
Yeah.
So, I think they definitely deserve that that finish in front of their fans, and I hope their fans appreciated it.
Yeah,
because in a Max dominant season, that's the only thing you could hope for at this point. Is that they're just you're gonna be able to hold them off for a period of time. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so good for them. Good for them.
And I share your same thoughts about Ferrari. So no real Mamma Mia Scuderia in a negative way, but more of a good job, guys. Good job.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's a Ferrari. Yes. I agree. I was thinking that. I'm just like, I would have to come up with a new Mamma Mia Scuderia that has a more positive spin, like them celebrating over the radio or something. Maybe I'll have to come up with those. I was also thinking that at this point with Stroll, we should do one for Aston Martin, and we'll just call it Aston Martin. And then just have just really stereotypical like English music, like folk music, and then, something. I don't know. I have to think about it. Like,
I like the idea. I see where you're going.
Or maybe like the James Bond theme or something.
Ooh, I like it. Yeah. Oh, I've got some ideas for that one.
Okay.
Talk about that. Yep.
Okay.
On the flip side of the coin of the good job Mamma Mia Scuderia, we have Allons-y Alpine.
Right.
Unfortunately, P15 and P19 for Gasly and Ocon, respectively, for what was it? Gas League, right? And
the Gas League.
Yeah, the Gas League.
And the Ocon clan.
Is that what they call them?
No.
Yeah.
I'm just making it up.
Or the Ocanos. Ocanos. I don't know.
No, it's got to be it's got to be like the it could be the Estie-Besties.
Yeah, Estie-Besties.
The Estie-Besties is what should be his fan base if he has any. I don't know.
Well, I was just gonna bring us to our vibe check because I think we kind of talked a little bit about why Alpine finished that way, but Gabe, what were your thoughts after watching the race? How'd you feel? Did it make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside?
It did, and it was not just the warm Italian air brushing through the television into my face. I think that we saw some stellar performances from a lot of the drivers.
Yeah.
You even had Liam Lawson, who was passing. Liam Lawson, I think, he passed up Stroll on track, like he lapped him or something. There was something I was just watching him. I'm like, this is the guy that's like, what? So he's doing what he can. I don't really necessarily think he'd be doing any better than Danny, or Danny would be doing any better in his position at this moment.
Yeah.
But, good for him for getting through the race and finishing it. Awesome. But yeah, lots of amazing racecraft. This is a very good track and a very good race. It feels special in this way.
Yeah, it does.
That some races don't. Sometimes we go to these racetracks and I'm like, oh, I mean, okay. Like, it'll be like Azerbaijan or like one of the many, races in like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
or Vegas, which we know will be like,
yeah. Oh, geez. Did you see the controversy around that now? What's going on?
So there's so many controversies, but the latest one I saw was that FIA is planning on charging, or F1 management is planning on charging restaurants and venues that have like a straight line access to the track because they just are geographically located there. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, they're
That's
also
nuts.
they're trying to charge casinos that have windows that overlook the track.
Right.
They're trying to charge them like $1,500 per head capacity, no matter regardless of whether they're there or not. Or else they'll put like blinding lights or banners over the windows. And I'm just like,
I don't know if that's gonna fly.
Hey guys, maybe you should, I don't know, have seats that are accessible for people to pay to go to,
dude.
Like, yeah, it's stupid. It's really dumb. It's
so this is what I'm talking about, right? This is what we were talking about. We talked about with Elizabeth when we were talking about IndyCar, right? Like, like the seriousness of it all, right? Like, are you kidding me? You're not gonna give me like a straight line, like there are gonna be people who are interested in the race who walk by and see it, like, oh, that's cool, and keep it moving, right? Versus like Batman like signal light into the window, blinding people from enjoying their casino experience, right? Like that's ridiculous.
Right.
That's like charging someone like, oh, you can hear some of the music from the concert. Yeah, we're just gonna blast like white noise in your neighborhood so you don't get to hear any of that. That's insane.
Right. No, well, and here's the thing. There's a new controversy now that I saw, and that is Las Vegas. They're building a permanent structure into the building. And the new thing that's happening now is that the building, obviously because it's a race building, they're calling it the paddock building, right? Because it's a paddock.
Okay.
Right. Well, it just so happens that the last name of the guy who had shot all those people during that country concert from the thing, his last name is Paddock. Ooh. And so everyone is saying that the FIA is deliberately naming their building after this guy, which is,
I mean, that's just more of a
it's a coincidence.
Yeah.
It's they're not like, why would they do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's just like, it would be like if there was a mass murderer whose last name was McDonald, and then everyone's like, well, McDonald's is naming their new buildings. It's like, no, McDonald's has existed forever. It's always been a paddock. So it is a little weird, and it is a strange coincidence. And if they wanted to, they could just rename it, just call it like, the pit building or something, But I do think that like, hey, like it's a coincidence. It's not deliberate. If you think it's deliberate, then you're living a delusion, because it's not. Yeah. Why would the FIA be like celebrating a mass murderer? Like that doesn't like, just think for 5 seconds. Do you think that makes sense? It's like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So it's just a coincidence that's unpleasant, so whatever, but yeah, so, but yeah, just to finish out my thoughts, this is a great race. I was really enjoyed it. I will also suggest that if you happen to live in an area or state where edibles are legal and easily accessible,
smoke weed every day.
I do recommend consuming an edible before a race, because it will make the race last a lot longer and feel a lot more exciting. I mean, I'm watching these battles, I'm like, oh my god. It was almost like I could see all of the cars around the track at all times. It really enhanced the experience.
Wow.
It was lovely.
So I hear that it almost makes it sound as if it's boring without it.
No, but it's just like, it's not that it's boring without it. It's just that you get to savor all of the in-between moments. It's the same with when I was watching Downton Abbey. Like I was watching Downton Abbey, and there would be scenes where they're saying something and they're doing something important, and then they just have these moments where like, they have like this in-between time before the next scene starts. You don't pay attention to the actors acting like visually when they're not saying dialogue, when you're not on an edible. But when you're on an edible, you can just witness the whole breadth of the scene in this way that's just like, ooh. So I'm just gonna say, like, you feel like you're getting more bang for your buck if you watch an F1 race on an edible. That's
gotcha. Okay.
But I was like I say, if it's legal and you can get it, do it. Because I live in a state where it is perfectly legal, and I purchase it legally, and I consume it legally, and yes,
and I pay my taxes, and I own a home, and
yes, Sunny Jim,
white picket fence, and go work at my job at the factory, and have kids.
I agree. Yes, but yeah, that was my thought. Great race. I definitely want to talk about my IndyCar experience more, so maybe I will do that a little bit on the next episode, which you will not be able to attend.
Yes. Yeah. So I will be going away for a good while here. But in that absence, we will have some special guest co-hosts.
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly.
It might just be me using a different voice, talking to myself.
Iddris, what do you think about that? Oh, well, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I might invite Ferraris on board. So, He's my evil twin.
Oh, alter ego. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just there's logistic stuff, but we will see. If you're, if any of our close friends have time and they're interested in being a co-host with me, you send me a message and we will talk about it.
We'll make it happen, baby. Yep. But yes, I guess I didn't even get my final thoughts. The only thing I agree with everything you said. Only thing I wanted to add was just that Ferrari, please, please, please keep yellow in the car. Actually, if you just inverted the color, if you made the car primarily yellow with a little bit of red, I think that would look really nice. I've said that for a long time. I just think the yellow jumpers with like the black horizontal stripe across the chest, reflect that on the car with some red stripes. I think that'd be beautiful. I'm a yellow Ferrari fan.
Okay. Yeah. It's a good color. It's a good color on a Ferrari. Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening to F1 or F Off. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you want to hit us up, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X, Twitter at F1 or F Off. Email us at f1orfoffpodcast@gmail.com. Give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. Really helps us out. You can also give us, as we said before, a 4 or a 3.5, but nothing less than that. And tell us to all your friends, all your family, and all of your enemies, including anybody who is obliviously taking a picture of the race car and not getting out of the way while the pit crew were trying to get the cars out for the Indy Grand Prix of Portland. Definitely send that guy our podcast. That or anybody who got mad that the person in front of them pulled out an umbrella because it was really hot and sunny out and they wanted to have some relief. So the guy that yells at you about that, yes, definitely give him the podcast.
Mm-hmm. They need it.
They need it. They desperately need it. Yeah. Desperately.
All right, y'all. Peace.
Peace out.
Oop.